Extraordinary. My dictionary says that extraordinary means beyond the common or the usual. Something grand, something remarkable, something memorable. And, you know, this is what we are. We are extraordinary. And I'm going to tell you why. In the 3rd chapter of Matthew, verses 13 through 17, when Jesus is just coming out of the water, he's just been baptized by John the Baptist in the River Jordan. And Scripture tells us that the heavens open up, and there's a dove flying, and I don't know, there is just this feeling, okay? And he hears this voice that says, "This is my beloved Son." Well, maybe God didn't sound like that. Maybe it sounded like, "This is my beloved Son." Masculine and feminine. "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." And we know in Unity that God wasn't just speaking about the man Jesus, he was speaking about the Christ presence that was born in Jesus. And likewise, we too are the children of God, the expressions of God. We have that Christ presence in us. This is what makes us extraordinary. Now, moving from ordinary to extraordinary, I truly believe that this is what we're all doing. We're already extraordinary spiritually, but what we're doing in this life is we're learning that we are also extraordinary on every level of our being. God is present everywhere. In the world around us, in nature, there is this presence. So in that sense, we are holy, and so is all of life holy, because it contains this presence of God. And, you know, probably most of us don't think of ourselves as extraordinary. Do you wake up in the morning? Now, I know that there's something called mirror work. Louise Hay has mirror work, and several people do that. You go to the mirror and you say, "You are wonderful. You are extraordinary." Okay. How many of you do that? You do. All right. Even I don't do that all the time. Even I forget that I'm extraordinary. And I think that's why we have families, we have friends, we have groups, because others can remind us that we are extraordinary when we forget. And I think it's very common for others to think of themselves as ordinary as well. When I was thinking of this talk, I thought of the song "Ordinary People." Don't know if you're familiar with it. John Legend wrote that in 2004, and I believe it was the theme song for the movie Ordinary People. And I've had that song going around and around in my head. Ordinary people. The lyrics are, "Girl, I'm in love with you. This ain't the honeymoon. Past the infatuation phase, right in the thick of love. At times we get sick of love. Seems like we argue every day. I know I misbehaved and you made your mistakes, and we both still got room to grow. And though love sometimes hurts, I still put you first, and we'll make this thing work. But I think maybe we should take it slow. We're just ordinary people. We don't know which way to go. 'Cause we're ordinary people, maybe we should take it slow. Take it slow. This time, we'll take it slow. This ain't a movie, love. No fairy tale conclusion, y'all. It gets more confusing every day. Sometimes it's heaven sent. Then we head back to hell again. We kiss, then we make up on the way. I hang up, you call. We rise and we fall, and we feel just like walking away sometimes. As our love advances, we take second chances. Though it's not a fantasy, I still want you to stay. We're just ordinary people. We don't know which way to go. Maybe we should take it slow. Maybe we'll live and learn. Maybe we'll crash and burn. Maybe you'll stay. Maybe you'll leave. Maybe you'll return. Maybe another fight, and maybe we won't survive, but maybe we'll grow. We never know. Maybe you and I. Because we're ordinary people. And this time, we'll take it slow. Relationships are not easy. I think everyone can agree about that. But I believe that it is in our relationships with each other that, and with life itself, that we get to, it's kind of like practice for our relationship with God. We get to work out the forgiveness. We get to work out the healing that we need when we're wounded by a friend, by a friend or someone insensitive. And we get to realize that that person also has the Christ within them. And we get the wonderful opportunity to learn how to look beyond the outer appearances, including the personality of others in our lives. Because humanly, we're ordinary people. And sometimes, humanly, we don't know which way to go. But in it all, we learn something about love. In it all, we awaken, we learn which way to go. And in this awakening to love, we realize that we are extraordinary people. The April 30th through May 7th this year, double edition of Time magazine has a collection of writings about the 100 most influential people today. And it surprised me that Jennifer Lopez is on the cover, and she's in this white flowing gown, okay? And it actually looks like she has angel wings, because there's feathers, white feathers on her shoulders and down her arms, okay? And except for the cleavage showing, she could look like an angel. But she's in the book, she's in the magazine, and so are some strange people like Kim Jong-un is in there, Trump is in there, and some other people that kind of surprised me. Oprah's in there. Jeff Sessions is in the magazine of the most 100 influential people, and a slew of artists and musicians and sports stars and movie stars and all of them. And there are a couple of regular people like us in there as well. But they're in the magazine because in some way they are all extraordinary people. They influence us, and even the ones that challenge us, that we seem in a negative way, are also teachers that challenge us to move beyond those challenges they present us. So it's all good. But in the magazine, when I was perusing it, and I didn't read all 100 stories, I read of some people who faced a lot of enmity. They were persecuted by people in their environment, by the societies that they were in, and they had a lot of things to overcome. And they did move through that period in their lives, and they were able to achieve their dreams. Extraordinary people, yes. And they desire to help the rest of us. Some of them have started clubs for youth, teenagers. Others are in the magazine are doctors who've come up with fantastic cures. And there was one story that kind of stood out for me. The woman who wrote this review or this appraisal did not want her name known. So the Time magazine, underneath the article, says that she wished to remain anonymous. So her name was not used in the article. So the way this was constructed, they got 100 people to write a brief introduction and a brief informational column about another 100 people who are influential. And this woman, she chose Dr. Testa. And Dr. Testa is an expert in liver and kidney transplants. And he was gathering a team of experts for a groundbreaking clinical trial to transplant a human uterus. Now, this woman in the story, she was born without a uterus, so she could not carry a child. And she was one of the 10 women who were selected to participate in this clinical trial. And she wrote in the article that in a few months, she had a functioning transplanted uterus, the first in the United States. And then the Time magazine added that in November of 2017, this writer gave birth to the first baby born via a uterus that had been transplanted in the United States. It wasn't all smooth sailing. The woman who wrote the article said that there were a lot of setbacks, and it got pretty scary at times. But she said that Dr. Tesla was a source of strength for her, and he was so confident that it made her feel better. And they did get through the rough times with that. And she said of him that he had worked long and hard to make this miracle a reality for her, and also for millions of families who've been told that pregnancy was impossible for them. With our growth as spiritual beings, we're learning to spend more time in the higher aspects of ourselves. We're learning to be open to this Christ level in us. And because we are doing that, we are opening ourselves to new ideas. And those new ideas, when applied and given shape and form, are leading to new technologies, new medicines, new procedures. And that's what we're seeing here. Things that were impossible in the past are now possible. I was reading another magazine, and it showed one of these exoskeletons that someone who was unable to walk was now able to walk. It's kind of like a suit that he puts on, and it moves his legs for him, and he's able to walk. I thought, wow, you know, this is really something here. Okay? And this is all because we are evolving. We are growing. We are moving from the ordinary state of humanness to the extraordinary state of spiritual beings who are expressing through a human body and human experience. The French Jesuit priest and paleontologist Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, he wrote that the world is not hurtling itself into aimless expansion. It's being moved Christ by Christ, that God may be all in all. He said the future of the material universe is intimately linked to the fulfillment of human beings, our fulfillment. He wrote, what we do matters to the matter of the universe, because by our choices we influence the life of the universe. And this quote echoes very closely the quote that I have in your program from Foundations of Unity, which reads, what we think and how we think is, of course, very important. What and how we think affects the way that we feel. And these two actions indicate visibly how we are using or directing the creative power of God. We're learning that every thought projects a form, a product, creates an effect. So in our freedom to think, we make concepts about God, we create concepts about ourselves, about other people, and we create our concepts about this world. And the thing is that by the law of mind action, which is basically like begets like, we produce effects in our bodies, in our affairs, in the world that correspond to the character of the thoughts we hold in our minds. Remember, the metaphysical trinity is mind, idea, and then expression. So, in computerese, it's really saying garbage in, garbage out. Good stuff in, good stuff out. And when we are affirming positive life-affirming thoughts in our mind and holding those, the result that we experience is positive result. Now, that does not mean that we can change a situation as it is in the present time, because these situations have been created by our past thinking. our past attitudes, our past beliefs. But a change can always happen within us in how we respond to what that situation is. And that creates the difference. Jesus spoke of this a little bit differently. In Matthew 16:9, he said, I give you the keys. And he was speaking to Peter, which represents faith and unity. I give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. And whatever you loose on the earth will be loose in heaven. Well, what this means is that we have been given the key, the ability, on how we experience our own life. What we bind, that means what we're holding on to, what we're attaching ourselves to. This becomes a reality for us. I was thinking of a quote from Richard Bach's book, Illusion, and he said, whatever you think your limitations are, you have them. Something like that. Okay? Because you're claiming them, you're attaching yourself to them, you're believing them, you're giving power to them. So we hold the keys to how we experience life. Again, this key may not change something out there. It's not going to change another person, okay? But it can change us. And then we respond differently to that situation. And we can respond in a positive way, which changes the energy of that situation. All of this is how we move from the ordinary to the extraordinary. So what do we do to get through the chaos and the tumult of daily life? How do we overcome tragedy? How do we heal our human wounds? How do we grow up spiritually and awaken to what is extraordinary in us? And so that we can also see what's extraordinary in other people. We can't force any of these experiences, but we can place ourselves in a state of mind where these experiences are possible. John Legend's song advises that we take it slow while we are finding which way to go. The art of slowing down enough to think, to reflect, to listen is key. And this is what we do in prayer, in meditation, contemplation. The art of slowing down enough to take time to be conscious of that one presence and power we declare here in unity that is within us, and to listen, to hear God speak. And God speaks in many ways. Sometimes there are words, sometimes there is feeling, sometimes there are images or pictures, sometimes there are numbers. God speaks to us in many ways if we will be open to listen. Sometimes God speaks through the words of others or through nudges and intuition. We're not all destined to be great movie stars and musicians and artists and teachers and scientists and all of those things, but we are destined to be extraordinary. Teilhard said, love is the most universal, the most tremendous, and the most mysterious of cosmic forces. He said that love is the most powerful and still the most unknown energy in the world. He also wrote that someday, after mastering the winds and the waves and the tides and gravity, we shall harness for God the energies of love. And then, for a second time in the history of mankind, man will have discovered fire. Jesus told us that love is the fulfillment of the law. In Mark 12:30 through 31, he tells us, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. And the second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. There's no commandment greater than these, he said. We don't have to be a superstar to realize how extraordinary we are. We just have to be willing to open our hearts to share love by using the ideas that come to us when we slow down and we get in touch with this presence in us. This is how we find the center of peace, and because the Bible says that God is the source of this peace and God is love. In 1 John 4, verse 7 through 10, we have, "Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love." This is how we move from ordinary to extraordinary. 4-letter word, love. And I'd like to close by sharing a personal example of a loved one of mine who moved from a difficult experience to an extraordinary one through love. And this is my sister Denise, and she gave me permission to share this with you. So I'm going to start this up. It's a PowerPoint. It's not a video, so we should be okay. Okay. I'm going to ask someone to put the front lights out, maybe the back. From the beginning. Cool. What will you do to move from ordinary to extraordinary? Finding a way to show and share love at the most difficult times in your life. This is Denise and her husband Adrian. They married in 1978, and, well, February 25th. And Adrian made his transition February 11th, so just shortly before their 38th anniversary. Yeah. And Denise wrote this February 11th of last year. 1 year ago today, life changed and the world lost a loving heart. Of my life, he will always be a part, always forever. Now, Denise she's a teacher. She is a writer, a poet, a photographer. I think she takes after me. And she wrote this in January 20th. Today I received my wedding gown back. I sent it off earlier this year to be made into angel gowns for babies that don't make it from the hospital, and I'll be donating them to the NICU at Vanderbilt. The 17 little gowns were made from my dress, and as beautiful as they are, I pray they are never needed. And so she sent her wedding gown to be cut and to be made into these angel gowns for newborns. And I copied some of the comments. I had never heard of that before, so it was new to me. And it just moved my heart when she sent that to me. And here's a lady, Rainey Meeks, from someone who has received one. Thank you, ladies. It truly helps mourning mothers. I know our grandson looked so sweet in his gown as an angel. We buried him in his. And Betsy LaPlante says, as a mother of full-term stillborn baby boy many years ago, my husband and I would have appreciated a gesture so much. At the time, I was left to spend the remainder of my stay as a patient on the maternity floor for several days. Deborah Atkinson, where are the gowns sent? In 37 years of nursing, I have had too many times of wrapping a tiny angel in a hospital pink and blue striped blanket. It is sad that so many babies are remembered in that blanket. I have a gown, and I would love to help change that. Karen Sheeran, as a grandparent, I cannot begin to say how beautiful this was for my granddaughter, Holly Faith. God bless you. And Sarah Hunter, that is a wonderful thought. My 3 little girls did not come home from the hospital, and I would have treasured such a gift. And then I copied this. This was a Christmas message that Denise had on Facebook. Merry Christmas. My gift to all this Christmas is simply love. May you always feel his love in those around you. May you always believe in the power of his love and trust he will always be here. Know he has angels here on earth helping to spread his love. She's speaking about God. Love, forgiveness, and gratitude are life's challenges and treasures. Learn to accept your love of self without boasting. Learned forgiveness doesn't mean forgetfulness. It means to let go of the hurt so I can move past it. Learn to express your gratitude in word and deed for all nature provides. Excuse me? Later. Let me leave you with this. Each day is a present from God. But we will get to pick what we want to put inside that box, what the actual present will be. Love is the present God gives to me each second of my life, and this is the present I get to share with you every day of my life. I love you. Thank you. Thank you for letting me share that. And that is what makes us extraordinary. Simple things that we do that bring joy, hope, compassion to others. God bless you. Now we'll join in our meditation. I invite you to sit back. You might like to close your eyes and let this be a symbol that you are turning the focus of your thoughts inward.